Hello, friends and fans. Hello, friends and fans. Welcome to A Gato Getaway. If you're new here, hi, I'm Lena. If you're returning, welcome back. Today it is once again time for my monthly live stream. Oh wow, I've already got a few new people. Hello, friends. Feel free to please actually leave a comment if you can hear me well enough. And I'm going to give it just a few minutes to see if we get a few people in, and just to give the people who have been waiting, or who, I had a few people message me about joining and doing this live parallel with me. So I'm going to give them a few minutes to join, making sure, yeah, I've got the view for the comments on. So today, I'm just going to keep talking because this will be available for replay. If you miss a step, feel free to leave a question, but I will have this available for replay after the main stream. Hey, Becky. So for this month, I am going to do a how to make a Lolita skirt. I was supposed, or like a basic skirt is actually more accurate, is what we're going for here. I was supposed to do this last month, and then September is always insane. I had Dragon Con at the beginning of the month, and then my birthday was immediately afterwards, and I don't remember where the rest of September went. It is my birth month, so I know that there was some, birthday shenanigans happening there, but I don't remember in full. So, yeah, September I think was a lot. I legitimately don't remember what happened in September, though. October is also very busy. I've got a bunch of events coming up, so I'm hoping to get more videos posted after this one. And fingers crossed, I have some really great stuff planned. I just haven't had time to film because I have 2 events this weekend and another event next weekend. So I hope you guys enjoy joining me for making a little bit of stock, I guess. And also, I love doing these sew-along kind of craft-along things with everyone here. So, okay, getting into this. Supply list. You guys are going to need fabric, and how much fabric you need is going to be a little bit dependent on a few different things. I'm sorry guys, we'll have to do math. For the math, you're going to have to do, you need, how long do you want your skirt to be? So the total length is, hi Phyllis, the total length will be the base you use to calculate how much yardage you need. So for today, I've cut out my fabric to be 22 inches in length, and then you want it to be at least 2.5 to 3 times your waist. And hello, Amber. I did a collab with Stephanie from Canada. I don't know what collab was that. Please, Amber, link me to the video you're talking about. What collab did I do? Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So, to calculate this, you need to know the total length, and then you want it to be at least 2 or 3 times your total waist. So, my waist is 36, 38 inches, depending on the Mystery Sewing Project. I don't know, the Mystery Sewing Project. I have a bad brain. If you're able to actually link the video for me, then please do. I'd love to see it. Hello, Lily. Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm really gonna get this math down. Okay, so you need the length, the total length, you want to do it 2 to 3 times your waist. So my waist is 36 inches, so at minimum I need it to be 72 inches, which for the actual width of the yardage, I like to do this kind of a very simple. So this is the basic math. You don't have to do a ton of math, Erica. Okay, I do it from salvage to salvage when I cut the fabric. So I've cut it to be 22 inches long because I want it to be a little bit just below the knee kind of a skirt. This is going to be a little bit more of a casual skirt, not a straight Lolita skirt. So I'm going for at least double my waist. And I'm not cutting it exactly. I'm just cutting it from selvage to selvage. So I have 2 long rectangles of fabric. These are still folded in half, so you can unfold them completely to see that's what the yardage is. And that's what I'm going to work with. If you need a little bit more yardage, if you need more than like this right here is 88 inches in total. So that is more than double my waist. But if you need more, I would just do a 3rd panel. My size 1 skirts is typically 2 panels, and then my size 2 and 3 is 3 panels, because you want to have that extra room and the extra volume overall. So I tend to just do it very simple, and I have the do it by the panels. That way it's not nearly as much math, and we're sticking with mostly straight lines, so it should be pretty simple to sew the whole thing together. So I have here already cut my 2 rectangles, and then the next thing you need is your waistband. Now, for the waistband, I've got 1 piece that is cut from selvage to selvage. So that is going to be, it is larger than my hip measurement, which is the main thing you definitely need to make sure is that it's larger than your hip measurement. And we're just going to do a full elastic waistband so that it's super comfortable. If you need more measurement, then like this is going to be 44 inches, which my hip is right around 42 right now. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room to get this on and off. If you need a little bit more, then I literally just, for my size 2 skirts, I do 1 from selvage to selvage length, and then 1.5. So wait, I have one cut out here in a different pattern, so I can show you guys. This is a different fabric that I'm working on for an event. This is going to be a tiered skirt. So I've got, these are ruffles that I've cut out, same thing, just from selvage to selvage. And then for the waistband, I've got 1 piece that is cut from selvage to selvage. And then I have 1 piece that is half the total width of the fabric. That makes sense. Does that make sense? If that doesn't make sense, please let me know and I'll try and explain it a little bit better. But so that's how I would do it if you need a little bit more, you know, a few more inches or whatever to give yourself some wiggle room. The next thing is technically optional. I didn't cut it out with the main fabric, and I really do recommend getting at least 2 yards if you can do the size 1, because then you have extra fabric to cut out a pocket. This is just a very basic pocket pattern that I stole off of some other dress pattern years ago. The general shape is very simple. Let me show it to you guys without the print underneath it. It's kind of a drop shape, and then there's the part where it sews in. I've already gone and done a quick serge on the finished edge here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and attach this into the skirt that I'm making today so you guys can see how it's done. But you don't have to have a pocket, but I'm pretty sure we all want pockets and love pockets. Pockets are, you know, the best. I have 2 pockets in this jumpsuit I'm wearing right now, and it is, I'm living my best life right now. So with all of that, we're going to get started. I will be using my sewing machine as well as my overlocker / serger machine. If you do not have a serger, you can do French seams, but you're going to need to add probably another inch in total to your total length because of having to sew each seam twice to seal it. And then the other option is a lot of sewing machines have something similar to an overlocker stitch on them. Worst case, you can do a zigzag stitch a few times. I would do at least 2 passes with a zigzag stitch to kind of seal those edges. Oh, we've got a big crowd tonight. Hi, friends. Hello, friends. If you're new here, if you're joining me today, please let me know where you came from. Okay, so now here we are back with the fabric I already cut out. I fell in love with this fabric. It's kind of like a witchy, almost tarot style print. I don't know which camera you can see it better in, but it's like navy blue and black and cream. So, okay, last material. You're gonna, of course, need straight pins and then lace. I'm gonna use this cream colored, very basic lace. If you are using a lace that has a finished edge, where's an easier one to see? If you're using a lace that has a finished edge, meaning it's not open on one side, these are both, this is a solution lace, this is a crochet lace, and then there are also, another option would be like a mesh lace. If you're doing a mesh lace, you're going to have to put this on a little bit differently, but all of these are totally valid options, and I will get more into that when I get to that point. So the first thing we're going to do is attach our skirts and our pockets, and then we're going to make the waistband. So for the skirt, I'm going to go ahead and make right sides touch to figure out where my rectangles are. And then I'm going to pin one side together. And then I'm going to pin, I'm just going to pin one side together for now. And then we're going to do the first step of the serger. Because I'm going to cut off basically all of this white selvage, I'm going to just pin it so that it overlaps a little bit on one side. And then we have the riveting, pinning content. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually sew this side where on the white edge. That way I can follow that as my guide. Hold my sewing machine a little closer. Let me know if the sewing machine is too loud and I can mute the mic while I'm sewing. Wrong paddle foot. There we go. Now when you sew, don't forget to do a back stitch at the top and the bottom. Also, Lily, you're not annoying. Love you dearly. Okay, so that's one side seam. The next thing we're going to do is actually attach the pockets to the other side. Now, when you're doing this, how I do it is I make sure that I have my top parts pinned together with how they're going to line up. And then I go down about an inch. And I make the pockets. There's two sides that are here. Make sure they're aligned at the top properly. Open up that seam. And then I match the top of the pocket to where that pin is. I'm going to put a couple pins. Make sure they stay in place. And do the same thing to the other side. Match it to the top. Now that we have the pockets placed so that we know they're going to line up with each other, we can undo the pin that is holding the two parts of the skirt together and attach the pockets on that seam. And you got to make sure that you leave the same amount of seam allowance on both sides because you do want them to match up. As far as when it comes to seam allowance, do whatever's comfortable. I tend to do between 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch, as long as it's consistent throughout the whole project. Right now I'm doing only like 1/4 inch. Also note, I pull out my straight pins as I'm sewing because it's actually it can be really dangerous to run over them. If your needle hits them, they can shatter. Hello, Bean. All right, so now the two pockets are attached. And the next step is, surprise, we're going to pin these sides together. Now I'm going to match where the pockets touch, right there. Because that's the most important thing for this side, is make sure the pockets line up. And I'm actually going to put a pin not right on that seam, but just inside of it. And then I'm going to close that side. And put a pin going horizontal instead of vertical. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin around the whole edge of the pocket. I want to say you can never have too many straight pins, but you can actually have too many straight pins. I would say put in as many as what you feel comfortable that you feel you need to make sure your project, everything lines up properly when you're sewing it. All right. That's the whole outside of the pocket. Now we're going to go, and once again, like, make sure this edge lines up. We want the two seams here to match up. I'm going to just go ahead and fold that bit over. Do a pin like that. All right, so that's the main pocket, and I'm just going to put a couple more pins going down the length of this. All right. Now I've made sure that where the light white bit lines up. If I was smarter about this, I would pin it on the other side, and maybe I'm just going to switch these two pins so that I can follow that white line again, because Joann's always puts an obnoxious, very thick selvage on their fabrics. All right. Hello? There it is. I knew I saw a spare pen. All right. Not to interrupt. Hello. Oh, awesome. I'm glad that my Cult Party content got a new follower. I'm obsessed with Cult Party K. I have ADHD brain, so don't worry about interrupting the flow. I will interrupt my own flow all of the time. Welcome, welcome. I'm trying to do more Cult Party content, but we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, I'm obsessed with Cult Party K. That and like Mori K. Also, I've been doing a lot of Mori K lately. Like this month I've done, yeah, we're like 5 days in and I've already done 2 whole Mori cords. So I just sewed straight down, and now I'm going to actually follow the whole curve of the pocket. Basically, once we've attached the pocket, it's become a part of that whole side seam. If you guys want to vote on what my next craft project is, join my Discord. I don't know that I have a link in this video description yet, but I do in most of my other videos. Not to say you should click onto other videos right now, but if you want to check out my other content, the link will be there. I think the hardest part of the skirt is doing the pocket. If you don't want to do a pocket, you just sew the side seam straight. And I would recommend doing that if you're a beginner, because curves are hard, but also pockets are so nice, so it's worth trying. All right, that's the main pocket. And we just finished the rest of the seam. All right, that's the main body of the skirt. I'm going to take the rest of this and put it aside. You could make a rectangular pocket, but that's not fun and that's not smooth. Round pockets are better pockets. Actually, you know what, Phyllis? Ignore my criticism of square pockets. Phyllis, I would love to see you do this exact same tutorial, but with square pockets, because I love your channel and it needs more content. I'm going to just fold this and put it aside now, because next thing we're going to do is the waistband. And this is pretty easy. After this, we're going to switch machines and do the overlocker. So first step is your print a directional print? Mine is. So where I pin it is going to change because it's directional. First, where's my camera? First, I want to find the middle of the whole thing, and I'm going to put a straight pin right in the middle of that. That way I know where the halfway point is. Now, where the print is facing upwards, I want that to be the front of the band, and where it's upside down, I want that to be the back. So on the back of the the back of the waistband, I want to leave a gap so that I can get my elastic in there. And I got distracted by Phyllis. And then we're going to do it closed on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a tack stitch, you know, back and forward and then back, and then skip probably about an inch. And then just before the pin that's at the center, I'm going to do another back and forth stitch and then sew the rest of the way. Let me know if none of this makes sense. I will do a better job of explaining if I can. I can also show you guys in a second. All right. So you can see here's the middle right here. I did not sew this part right here. Where's my camera? Where's my light? I did not sew right here, but I sewed this whole side here. And why, you may ask, did I decide to do that? Well, this is our waistband. And what we're going to do now is press this. I'm just going to finger press where the salvages meet and then fold the whole thing over. And you can see here is the little gap for where we're going to put our elastics in and out. I like to put one straight pin on each side of the gap just to kind of help it stay closed, because the next step is we're going to do a bunch of straight lines to be channels for the elastic. It's something I forgot to mention at the beginning. I like to use 1/4 inch elastic. I don't think I remembered to mention that we will be using elastic. I did say that this would be a full elastic waistband though, so that's what's going on. After I've pinned the opening, I'm finding the other half, the other side, and I'm going to put a pin there. Just to help it stay so that it is evenly folded in half. Then I'm going to split the whole thing again and match the opening to the other side, and then put a pin on either side here as well, so that I've got 4 pins, 1 on each quadrant, kind of. And you can use more pins if you need more to help keep it straight. I just need a little bit of extra help. I don't need a ton. But I've also been sewing for like 2 decades, so. All right, so this is what we're gonna do next. I'm gonna do first a stitch around the top, and we're not going to put any elastic in that top band. That's just kind of like there to help things keep even. And then we're going to do 1 channel with a small gap and then another channel. So it's going to be in total 1, 2, at least 4 rows of stitches. I'll have a final answer for you after I do it. And basically what we're going to do is just feed this thing in circles around itself. I use the very top of the fabric as the guideline for the first row of stitches, and then I use that first row of stitches as another guideline for the next one below it. The goal is to have it be just like 1/3 of an inch wide, like a little less than a centimeter. Because we want to use the 1/4 inch elastic, and you want it to be, excuse me, you want it to be a little bit wider than the actual elastic we'll be using. Time for a water break, because my throat is dry. Have you guys all had a water break? You should have some water too. All right. Back to sewing. And don't forget to back stitch. Very important. All right, that's the first row done. Yay, T was remembered. I'm going to do the next row. You guys don't have to sew as fast as I do. So this row was about the width of my finger. Again, because I'm going to be putting the elastic through this channel. And then the next row I want it to be about the same size as the one that's on the top, because it's just a little bit of spacing. It helps it lay a little bit better. In my opinion, you don't have to put a gap channel. You could literally just do a second channel. And I don't think I ever talked about how I measure the waistband. This is 4 inches because I like to have 2 inches for the waistband actual measurement, because of how I like to do the spaces and the gaps. You can make the waistband a little bit shorter if you prefer. I've done them also where they're like 3 inches in total, so it's about 1.5 inches, and then the two parallel channels of elastic are side by side. There's no gap between them. I do recommend having 2 channels of elastic. It's a little bit more comfortable, and it adds a little bit more strength to the actual waistband itself without it being too strong to the point where it's like cutting in. Alternatively, you can use 1/2 inch elastic. I don't prefer it. I feel that it's a little bit too strong. I tend to use it for different types of projects, like for leg bands, but things that don't need a ton of stretch. Anyway, I've got 2 more stitches to do. So yeah, it's in total 4 rows of stitches. Okay, and then to finish off the last row for the channel. Hello? What are you caught on? There we go. So that's my waistband. There are little jump threads from where I started doing the additional rows for the stitches, and I'm sure you guys probably noticed I said earlier not to sew over your straight pins, and then I immediately sewed over my straight pins. Do as I say, not as I do. I did leave these here for a specific reason though, and that's going to come into play when we start to put together the 2 main pieces of our skirt. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut all of these black jump threads you guys can't really see, but I find that doing it at this stage instead of waiting until you're putting the elastic in is actually, it's a lot easier to deal with, because then you don't have the whole thing kind of assembled, and or you won't forget to do it before you get to the next point. And I do cut them off of both sides, because again, we back stitched each time, so they should all stay in place. All right, one more, come on. Sorry, I had to pull out my other snippers. Okay, so this is the whole waistband. Now we're going to take this and set it aside, and technically we're going to switch machines for a minute. I'm going to turn off my regular sewing machine, push him back. Shrek, get out of the way. There we go. We're going to put that over there. I'll put that over here, actually. And this is my serger. It's as old as I am. I got it from my mother-in-law, but I love him. He is great. If you guys don't have a overlocker or serger machine, whatever you want to call it, if you sew a lot, it's worthwhile. If you don't worry about it. Now, technically, these edges are finished because it is the salvage. It's just bulky. So I personally don't like leaving that bulk on these. The pocket, however, is raw edges. So if you don't have an overlocker, I would recommend going around the pocket at the very least and finishing off those edges as best as you're able. And what I'm going to do is just, because the overlocker has a blade on it, I can sew straight and maneuver it so that this part is going to be the most tricky, but you just take it slow and you maneuver it so that you follow the whole edge. You guys get to see me in action. Let's do this. All right. And so that's what the pocket side looks like when it's all done. You kind of follow the white stitch. It is important to do the straight stitch before you do the serge, because doing the curved edges will stretch the fabric as you're sewing it through the overlocker. And so because there are those straight stitches already there, it helps keep the fabric from like stretching out more so. I'm just going to real quick do the other side and then move on to the next part. All right, so now we've removed the extra bulk of the fabric from both sides. If you are a collector of coleslaw, you can keep this, and if you wish to reuse it, you can use it for stuffing in a fiber project, or just as filler for other different things that need such. I have too much coleslaw, so this is actually unfortunately going to be scrap, and that's usually the most amount of scrap I have for my projects, is what comes from the serging itself. And we're going to put this guy down, but we're not done with him. We're going to bring him back later. For the next step, we're going to put some gathering stitches into the actual skirt. We are very close to having an actual wearable garment right now. We only have a couple more steps to go. So to put in a gathering stitch, it is recommended you do at least 2 lines of straight stitching on the longest length your machine can do. It's just a regular straight stitch on the longest length. I am unfortunately an impatient person, so I typically only do one length, like one strand of stitching. I'm going to tell you why you should do 2 though, and that's because there is a chance when you're tightening the elastic, or not the elastic, when you're tightening the pulling on the thread to help make it gather up, if the thread breaks, then you just have to redo that stitch altogether. But if you've got 2 rows of them, the tension is evenly spread amongst the 2 rows, and it's less likely to break. Thank you, Phyllis, for explaining the coleslaw. Or no, wait, no, you didn't. Okay, yes, I did say collector of coleslaw. Coleslaw is like a crafter's, like, it's a term that quilters use for excess cast off little scraps of fabric. The only kind of coleslaw I really collect is when is made out the like fiber fleece, the blizzard fleece. I use that literally as fiber fill, and I turn my scrap fleece, any usable pieces, into little like bonbon. They look like little candy hair clips. I have bags and bags and bags of it all over the place in my craft room. But I love using it and saving it, and it's definitely like one of the things I do try and be very conscious of how much fabric scrap I am creating, and I try and find a purpose for every scrap I can. So yeah, maybe one of the things we'll do in the future is we'll do a like plush craft along project. But if you want to do that, join my Discord and let me know. How many times can I plug my Discord in this stream? All right, so I've got my machine set to the longest stitch length it can do, and I'm just going to sew like I said, one line of gathering stitches, and I should do two, but I'm only going to do one. I recommend you guys do two, because inevitably this is going to add an extra 20 minutes because I might snap a thread. I haven't done that in a few days, and I've been making skirts like crazy, but of course we're on live stream, so inevitably it's going to happen. Okay, where's my correct petal foot? There are 3 petal feet by my feet, guys. All right, so I just want to also state I folded this bottom beat so that it's the side that's white is actually pressed up against, and this is a lighter color, but I'm stitching that down on the top. And what I'm doing is I'm sewing from one selvage to the other selvage. If you do not have, if you're using 3 panels, then what you would do is you would find the halfway point. If you used a pocket, that would be one side, and then the middle of the other 2 panels would be your halfway point, and I'd sew from there to there. Because we're going to sew, we're gathering up the front, and then we're going to gather up the back. All right, so that's one side to the other. I'm going to stop there, clip those threads, and then do the second set gathering stitch. Making sure I don't actually sew the tails into the other side. Okay, so now I have 2 rows or 2 individual gathering stitches, one on the front, one on the back. And if you have a pocket, you do have a designated front and back, because you want the pockets to kind of be in front of you when you're wearing the pocket, because your hands go this way, and so you need it to go in towards the front. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, wait, I have pockets. I can show you guys. You want, this pocket is pretty loose, but you want it to go face like this, because that's the way inevitably your hands naturally want to go in there. If your pocket is facing like behind you, then it's going to be a little bit awkward. Because they're not like fully tacked to the garment, it will, like, you have some flexibility there, but I recommend paying attention to what side you stitched it down. So I stitched this down facing that way. So this is the front of my skirt. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch the 2 side seams together and find the middle of back. Find the middle, because the 2 side seams are touching. And just like on the waistband, how I designated 4 different quadrants, I'm doing the same thing on the skirt. We have each side seam being one side, and then we have the center front and the center back. So I'm going to now take the waistband, make sure the side that has the opening is not, so you want to face right sides to right sides. And so this is the closed side, and I want to touch that to the edge where the pocket is. Again, if you don't have a pocket, just make sure that the gap is what will be on the inside of the garment. I'm going to take one of those pins that was right there, Pin that down, pull out the extra, and then we're going to go around and find all the pins that are on the waistband and pair that to where the pin is on the skirt. That way you know when you gather it, you're going to have an even distribution of gathers throughout the entire thing. Okay, now that that's all pinned up, I say even though I haven't done the last one yet. All right, there's the last one. What I'm going to do next, this is going to be a little bit hard to see because I'm sewing in black thread, but we're going to take the two tails and we're going to actually like undo the first loop so that both sides of the thread are on the same side. So you can see here, wait, where's my camera? Maybe you can see right here where I've pulled them both out. And I'm going to do that, both of them. And I always pull the one that is on the side I'm actually on, which will be whichever one is further over, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to very carefully, I'm going to grab that one thread and pull it and slowly ease the fabric. So I'm holding the fabric, but not too tightly. And then I pull the thread, and then you can see it gathers a little bit. And then I push those gathers further down that thread line. And you do need to do that. You're going to do it several times, but you want to not have too much tension on that thread at any one time, because that's how you snap your thread. And we're just going to do this until we make it so that the gathered bit is a little bit shorter than the actual lining. And then we're going to pull on it until it's taut. Take those two threads that are for this side and do a quick overhand knot. That'll prevent the thread from tightening or loosening up anymore. And then we're just going to take this measure of gathers we have, spread it out so that it is as even as you can do by eye. There's a way to do this that involves math, but I know how much you guys, maybe not Phyllis, love math. Phyllis does actually love math. And then I'm going to start pinning this, starting from where the knot is and moving towards the center. I like to put my pins every like 1.5 to every 2 inches. I feel like that's a good spacing for me personally, so that I can keep it nice and even when I'm actually sewing these bits together. But you can do it as, you can put as many pins in there as you want, as long as it's not doesn't get in the way. I also have like 1,000 pins, so there are some projects I make that are just, I caught myself with the pin cushion of a garment earlier. So now that I've done, this is 1/4, and I'm going to go to that side seam and do the other side, and then flip it around and do the other side. I always start from, you know, working my way from the sides into the center. And I find it easier to do one side and then flip it and do the other. All right. Do the same thing where I make it a little bit smaller than I need it to be, and then I stretch it back out and then tie that off. and spread out my gathers. Any questions so far? Flip it over, do the other side. Got some threads caught in this one from, there we go, maybe. There we go. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I always hope to be helpful. And hopefully by the end of this, you guys will have a cool, casual Halloween skirt. If not, that you can make yourself, that you can make between now and the end of the month. Or just be able to make any kind of skirt anytime. I did not pull this through. You have to pull the loops through so that you have a way to tie it off. I just forgot that time. This side's already been pulled through, maybe? No, it's not. This side just has extra threads because of how I attached the pocket first, and then I did not trim those threads. You trim your extra threads as you go. Makes for a lot less confusing time. Okay. But yeah, I love making skirts. I do a lot of skirts for my shop because they're relatively quick to make. I think that in total, this will take me about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I can typically, when I'm not narrating everything that I'm doing, I can make a skirt in about an hour and a half if it's tiered skirt, which has like a ruffle, or if it's, actually a layered skirt. But so long as you're doing a solid weight, like a full elastic waistband, you can use these same methods, ideas, techniques to do any of those. There is just a small amount of math when it comes to how many tiers and how long and all of that. I do love the full gathered, like the full elastic waistband. I own a lot of meta skirts. That was the original inspiration behind how I make my skirts now. Because most of those full elastic meta skirts are made out of extra fabric left over from releases, which is why there's a lot of them that do not have a border print on them. It's just a way to have less waste in your production, which I love and I'm here for. I definitely have a few skirts that I'm working on in this week actually, I didn't quite have enough to make a second JSK, so I turned them into a skirt. All right, so that's the last quadrant. Just gonna pin this in place. All right, so now we're going to actually literally attach the waistband to the skirt itself. When you're sewing this, you want to sew with the waistband side down. You want the gathered fabric to be on top because your petal foot will have a little bit of a harder time sewing that ruffled kind of fabric and pulling it through. So I'm going to start on the side I'm on, which just so happens to be the side with the pocket. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim all these extra threads that I have. And I'm going to cut the gathering threads. Now, I'm going to cut them I'm not going to cut the knot. I'm going to cut them about 1 millimeter, just, you know, like a short length away from where the knot actually ends. And where did my trash bag go? Sorry. All right. That way I don't have these long threads all up in my way. That's a thread from the pocket. All right. And like always, we're going to start by doing a back stitch, and then we're just going to sew. And I'm going to try and keep it even. And I'm going to sew it slow enough that I can kind of adjust the ruffles and make sure they're all laying the way I want them to as I sew over them. I'm going to pull out the straight pins as I get to them. I do tend to leave the very first straight pin where I started because then I know when I get to that one, it's the end. And this is why I tend to do them like 1.5 inches apart, because it's just enough space for me to be able to adjust the gathers, make sure they're laying the way I want. So 1.5 inches, pull out the next one, repeat. Make sure the ruffles are laying the way I want them to. And then like when I am rotating the fabric, I literally I pick up the whole thing and I spin it because I don't want the straight pins to get caught on like the bottom of the sewing machine or on some random thread or on anything and get pulled out, because then I have to figure out which one got pulled out from where, and then I have to find the pin that was lost and so on and so forth. It's just, you know, a little bit of extra caution helps. Okay, so here's the other side seam though. So now that I've gotten close to it, I'm going to go ahead and trim the other gathering threads that are here. Again, I'm leaving just a little bit extra. You don't want to cut that knot because that'll make your life miserable in like a very a range of creative ways. Do not cut the knot. You will be sad. Which is also like, it's important to get the knot as close to the actual fabric as you can. That's the halfway point. The way I rotate the skirt also, I'm making sure that none of the fabric is actually getting caught underneath the petal, like underneath the feet dogs or anywhere near the needle, except for the fabric that needs to be near the needle. There's a lot I'm doing in that one motion. right, there's the pocket again. I'm gonna pull out the last straight pin and then again do a back stitch. All right. So now we have the bulk of the fab, like the skirt, actually completed. We do, however, have 2 raw edges still, and so we're going to address those first. If you have the overlocker, then you're going to run both the edge of the waistband where the skirt meets and the hem of the skirt through, which is what I'm going to do now. If you do not have an overlocker, then you're going to zigzag stitch both of those. But before we do the hem, I want to talk about trim to finish your hem. If you are using any kind of mesh lace that has a raw kind of unfinished edge, this won't kind of ravel or anything, but it is, you know, not the cleanest edge, as opposed to, like, where's the end of this bolt? There we go. This, which has a straight edge on it. So if you're using something like this, you can serge the whole thing now. If you're using something like this, or something like this, which is a finer mesh, I would attach this first to the bottom and then serge the whole thing, like just run both edges through, like the bottom, through your overlocker or through your zigzag stitch or whatever it is you're using to seal up those raw edges, because it will give the finished garment overall a more finished look. So I'm actually going to be using not this guy, not that guy. I'm going to be using this kind of cream colored lace because the design that's on here is actually more of a creamy color. So I think that this will be a really good match for it. And this does have a finished edge. So I'm going to turn off this guy. And I'm going to pull the overlocker back up. You don't have to turn off your sewing machines, but I recommend it when you're switching between them, because I will, so many times, I will hit the wrong pedal foot because there are 3 of them again by my feet. And then that guy will start running, this guy will start running when I want this guy to be running. And then he'll unthread himself, or he'll just, you know, get into chaos because I'm not watching. I'm telling you. Machines are like toddlers sometimes. You got to watch them, otherwise they are not doing what you want them to. All right, so I'm going to start with the waistband because it is the shorter length. I'm just going to go. Wrong pedal foot. Now I'm going to go. And there, the waistband is done. So next we're going to do the hem. If you don't want to do trim, you can also do a French seam on the hem where it's just like you fold it twice so that the raw edge is enclosed. Just make sure you take into account how much you're going to fold it when you're measuring the total length out for how long you want your skirt to be. Wrong pedal foot again. Now all raw edges have been contained, so the fabric is gonna be a lot sturdier. You can throw this garment in the washing machine now, and it shouldn't fall apart or unravel or have little stray threads anywhere. So D-Rod. Oh yeah, if you have pets, that's another excellent reason to make sure you turn your machines off. So we got 2 more things left to do before we're done with the skirt, but we're almost there. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put elastic into the waistband. Now, I use a very scientific method to measure how much elastic I need. I grab it and I pick a measure and I see, okay, does that stretch more than the actual waistband by a comfortable amount? And then I see, how does that feel when it's stretched in total? Yeah, that's not so bad. How much does that look like it is when it's done? Typically, this averages out to, I use 22 inches of elastic, and I'd cut 2 pieces of that. And that's just like my personal preference for how I tend to do this. I do a lot of stuff by eye, guys. I'm sorry. Very scientific, super, analytical, deep, big thought put into this. Let me actually measure and see if I am on my money. This piece of elastic is 23 inches. So that's not bad. So usually I do 22. This piece I've measured to be 23. And I'm actually going to go with that because that number does vary for a couple of different reasons. 23 is a good number because it'll end up being 22. Because when we put all of the elastic in here, I'm going to sew the 2 edges of the elastic like over each other. And I'm going to just do a straight stitch back and forth to make sure they're like fused. You can just do an overhand knot, but then it creates extra bulk in your waistband, and that's obviously going to be a point where it's a little bit uncomfortable. If you sew the 2 pieces on top of each other, then you kind of address that issue because there isn't an extra knot right there. And anything that's going to be flush against your skin, you're not going to want a little knot right there pressing against you. So 23 is a good number. You can do it bigger, of course. I would recommend doing it at least 3 inches smaller than your actual waist measurement. Because it is elastic, it will stretch a good deal more than what your actual waist measurement is. And you want it to actually sit on you and not sag. If you do it your actual waist measurement, and then you put like your phone in that pocket, it's not going to have enough tension to actually hold it onto your body because the weight of the phone pulling on the elastic will then pull it not off of you, but maybe. So there are 2 pieces. I think I might have forgotten to bring my bodkin over. But I think I have a safety pin in my tin of pins. A bodkin is a tool that is specifically designed to pull ribbon or elastic through a channel. A safety pin works very similarly, except it doesn't have the extra length. The bodkin is usually about this long at minimum. Again, it's not a necessary tool, but it's a good tool to have if you have one and if you sew a lot. And if you want to make like a million dresses for your a million skirts for your wardrobe now, I would say get a bodkin. Hello? 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 Decline. Nothing quite like a Facebook call making every single device I have go off. All right, so we're going to put the elastic into the 2 channels now. So we have the main channel right here, and there's a bottom channel and there's a top channel. And I'm going to need another straight pin, but maybe we'll be okay. Typically, not straight pin, safety pin. Typically, I use 2 safety pins, and you guys are gonna figure out why. I have an alternative idea here. So we're just gonna feed it through a channel. And what I'm gonna do is when I get to like, there's a few inches left, I'm gonna pin it in place. That way it doesn't go all the way into the channel. And I'm just gonna put a straight pin on it. This is rough on your fingers though. If you're making a lot of skirts, I don't recommend doing all of the elastic channels in one go. All right, so that's good enough. And I'm just gonna put a straight pin. I'm gonna feel where the elastic is and put a pin that goes straight through that, in and out, so that it doesn't get pulled into the channel. When you're doing this, I'm very careful to try and make sure that I'm pulling the elastic so that it stays flat and it stays on the same flat on the same side, and it's not twisting in the channel as I'm pulling it. And you'll get to a point where, just like when you were gathering the actual skirt, where a lot of the fabric is like bunched up in one spot, and you want to push that further down, that elastic. Because the more tension you have behind, wherever the front is, the harder it'll be to actually pull everything through. Just gonna hold right behind the safety pin. The safety pin's like right here, and I'm just gonna hold right behind it and make sure I push all of that down. Now, when I get all the way back here to where I began, because of the way I folded the salvages, there is 2 flaps right here, and that can be incredibly difficult to get your straight pin actually through it. So what I do is I'm going to actually take a pair of tweezers and put that inside the channel and use that as a guide for how to get my safety pin out. I don't know if you guys can see what I just did. But it's important to have the bit of fabric overlap here, because if you have a raw edge too close to here, you're going to have extra like loose bits of fabric that raw edge it and come out, and it can be, a little untidy, a little unfinished looking and feeling. Because I used the salvages, those edges are finished. They're not going to unravel on you. And so this is about how much I overlap it. It's not quite a full inch, but it's pretty close. So basically, because I'm overlapping it by a full inch, I lose an inch in the total length, and that's why it'll be 22 inches at the end. Now I've got that straight pin in there, I've got it like evenly distributed so that I can let the elastic kind of slide back into the channel and it won't go all the way in. You can see it stays right there. That way it'll give me a little bit more freedom and a little bit more room when I put the second piece of elastic in the channel. Now there is the other channel. I'm just going to start pushing that through the same way I did the other one. All right. I'm looking forward to doing this another 4 times later tonight. I'm working on a whole lot of stock for, I have 2 events coming up for my shop this weekend. I will be at the World Oddities Expo in Baltimore, Maryland on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I will be taking part in the Howard County Pride Festival, and that I'm doing with another local indie designer, Belladonna. Both of us are queer AFAB businesses. So if you are near or around Maryland and would like to come to either one, feel free to come and check us out. At World Oddities Expo, I will be sharing with another artist who is a new acquaintance of mine, and I'm gonna link their stuff down below because I actually have forgotten how to pronounce their last name. But I'm very excited to be partnering with some more amazing artists / designers this weekend. And then, of course, next weekend I'll be at Nightshade, and I'm going to have so many cool Halloween things, and I'm working on a tartan release for Nightshade. So I'm just going to show you guys this again. I'm sticking, this is the pointy bit of the tweezers, the part that grabs stuff. I'm sticking this inside. And because the channel is so tight, you can't actually open the tweezers. So what I do is I take the straight pin and I put them into the actual center part of the tweezer, and that opens up the channel for me so that I can then push it through. And then there's my pen. Now, since that's it, I'm only doing the 2 rows of elastic. We're gonna again overlap it, pin this, and then go to the other one and pull it out so that I want to have a good amount of room to actually be able to fit this into the sewing machine without having to worry about the rest of the other fabric. So put these guys away. And we're going to sew the elastic together real quick. And then we're going to add some lace and finish the hem. When I'm doing this, I hand guide the needle down so that it stabs right on top of where I want it to start, and then I pull the straight pin out, because again, you don't want to sew over the straight pin necessarily, especially when it's, you know, parallel to the direction you're going to be sewing. And then I just go back and forth a few times. Because it's a dark color fabric, I don't mind that I'm sewing with black thread, but you can see there is a bunch of lines there, but then it's now not gonna come apart. Put that down. All right, that's it. The elastic is done. I just trim. I have a little thread cutter right here on my machine, and I love it. You can also use scissors if you need them. So now that we've got those done, I'm just gonna like pull on the waistband to get the elastic channels to go in. I'm gonna guide the edge bits and stretch it out. There's the finished waist. Last thing we're gonna do is put lace on the hem. Now, you can do this 2 ways. You can take your hem and attach the lace so that it's pointing upward, and after you've attached your lace, you can fold it down and then it'll be pointing downward. Or you can do both steps in one go. what I typically do is I will fold the edge just a little bit and then attach the lace as I'm sewing the edge upward. I do a couple of small gathers so that the raw bit of the edge of the lace, it's not actually raw because this is a polyester that's like finished and it's a mesh, but it's like fully finished all the way around. I don't know really how to explain it. This is a type of Rochelle lace, but it's a nice Rochelle lace because it's so small and petite. I know Rochelle lace is typically a big no in Lolita, but this one's a nice one. You know, it's like there are exceptions to all rules when it comes to Lolita fashion. There's not a lot of good Rochelle lace, though, which is why that rule got set. I am just going to run a pin through the very beginning of it. That way everything stays in place for the first pass. I'll pull that pin out. And then I'm just going to fold it, put the lace. You guys can't see very well what I'm doing. I'm going to fold it and I'm going to put the lace on the edge as I sew. I'm all about like getting the most out of the fewest steps. I also should mention that you should put your machine back into a shorter stitch than the gathering stitch that you had it in before. It should be at like my longest stitch is a 4, and I typically sew most of my stitches at like a 3. Looser stitches are just not as strong as tighter ones, if you're wondering why I'm recommending that. I find doing it this way is a little bit easier for me personally, but like I said, you could do them like one, attach the lace and then turn the edge. I hope you all are enjoying the sewing machine ASMR. By the way, you should also make sure you have enough lace to the hem of your fabric. You're going to figure out how much you need for the hem of your skirt by however wide your fabric is times how many panels you did. I know most people aren't like me where they buy fabric in stupid bulk and they have 50 yards of it just sitting on a card. It's the halfway point. So I'm really close to the edge now. I'm just going to measure how much I need, trim that, that way I can put the card away. And then once I'm just like a couple inches from the edge, I'm going to do the same thing where I just fold the edge a little bit. And then we backstitch. And he's done. So I have to trim the threads, but then he's done. All right. And here we have our finished skirt. Super elastic, so it's super comfortable. And it's got an invisible side pocket. You can't even, there's this, oops, sorry. There's the seam. You can kind of see if I pull on it, the blue that peeks through, but overall, it's there. If you want it to stay more hidden, you can iron it so that you've got some really crisp edges there that are preventing, like, keeping it actually closed. But, or you could also just, like I recommended, you can use the fabric, matching fabric, and then it wouldn't be noticeable at all. I just used a pocket I already had cut out because I'm a crazy person and I bulk cut out pockets to just sew into garments as I'm working on them. So I picked one that was close-ish in color. So that's it. This is our super casual, simple skirt that we've sewn. Sorry, the light is kind of washing it out. If you want to see this skirt worn, I will post pictures on my Instagram of it tonight. I think I'll do it tonight. I'll take I'll put together a quick casual outfit and show you guys what it looks like worn. I'm going to wear it with a petticoat. It is a nice kind of casual, sweet, classic. The word I want to use is classic Lolita-ish length. The skirt's full enough that it can be used for Lolita. Or just worn as an everyday, cute skirt. Skirt's completed. If anybody has any questions, now is the time to ask. I predicted this would take an hour and a half, and we are at exactly an hour and 29 minutes. So I'll probably give this a few more minutes if anybody has questions or comments or things they would like to say and add on to all of this. If you would like a skirt like the one that I just made, I do have a little bit more yardage of the fabric, and I am planning to prep them and have them up on the website probably in the next day or two. I legitimately have 4 skirts that I will be finishing tonight, and then another stack. These are all skirts that I will be working on today, this evening, and tomorrow. For adding a ruffle to the bottom. So, pro tip for adding a ruffle to the bottom. You will use the same method that you attached the waistband, where you'll find the 4 quadrants, and then as you're attaching it to the hem, I would recommend gathering it in 4 parts like that. I would use, so like for example, this skirt itself is made out of 2 panels. At minimum, for just a modest ruffle, I would use 3 panels from salvage to salvage. If you want a more generous ruffle, 4 panels. As a, rough math estimate of, me not wanting to do actual math for anything. And yeah, you would just do it the exact same way as what you did with the waistband. And then after you have it gathered in the quadrants, pinned together. You sew it. You would treat the actual like you treat it as 2 layers. So whatever the top layer that's flat, you would sew it that side down, and then after you have, and then the gathered part on the front, and then you would serge that edge, and then you would again serge the actual hem of the ruffle. You could serge the edge of the ruffle beforehand, but that also depends on, do you want to put lace on the ruffle, what kind of lace you want to put on the ruffle. This whole decision tree kind of spans from the same methods, just applied in slightly different ways. And when you're doing the ruffle, it is then also just an extra bulky bit of fabric. I would love to do this live stream again, doing the same gathered elastic waist, like full elastic waist skirt, but with a ruffle or as a 2-tiered skirt. And I would probably do that in the plus size so that my plus size folks can see literally what I'm doing. I would probably also make it without the pocket in that method. So if you guys want to see me do the actual skirt that way instead of just me sharing the principal ideas, I can. I'm not going to do it next month. We're not making another skirt next month, but I would happily do that. Or you can feel free to message me in the Discord, and I'd be happy to hop into VChat whenever you have free crafting time, and we can sew together and both make skirts, and I'll be able to answer your questions in real time instead of in slightly delayed time. I hope that was helpful, Lily. This is cute. I really like the colors of this skirt. I don't think that the camera is capturing the colors as nice as what they are, but when I post the photos on Instagram, they should be better, or at least truer. Very excited. Ignore my coffee. I know it's like 8:30 at night. This is really cute. I'm really happy with this. Okay, come on, Shrek. My skirt. All right, if we don't have any other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. If you liked this video, be sure to like it. Feel free to rewatch the replay if you missed any part or if you needed to see me do it again. Again, if you need any clarification, check me out on Instagram, or not Instagram, check me out on Discord. I'm gonna drop a link to my Discord in the description of this video once I have the replay up. And I'm actually gonna do this, I mean it, I said it last month and I didn't do it, but I'm gonna do it this time. And what else? If you guys want to give input on what the next thing I do for next month's live stream, again, join my Discord. I will have the link up for you guys on the replay. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe. I do this once a month, and then every other week I try and do a fashion-based video. I have coming up a how to cord a historical accessory in classic Lolita. I have a Halloween-inspired cord lookbook, and I have a video about Nightcore coming up. So keep an eye out for those. I'm trying really hard to get those filmed. We'll see when they actually go up, though. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for joining me. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you are, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And I will see you in my next video, or my next live stream, or on Discord, whichever comes first. See you all. Bye. And